What if the Jedi Order abandoned the Republic? That's our story for today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get right into this one. Our story begins inside of the secret Sith lair on Coruscant, deep in the industrial sector. Former Jedi Master Dooku is standing above a dead body of someone he just killed. Dooku was just confronted by Master Yaddle while speaking with Darth Sidious, and Dooku had to make a choice, and he chose to honor the death of Qui-Gon Jinn and rejoin the Jedi after exposing that they allowed the Sith to rise to power at Chancellor. And now Dooku stared down at the body of Darth Sidious. He killed him with Yaddle's help, and now the Republic and the Jedi Order were going to be in for a huge awakening, as Dooku would reveal the truth. Not long after this, the Jedi Council was gathered after returning from the Naboo funeral, and Dooku waited for them with Yaddle inside the council chambers. The two of them were discussing everything about how Dooku oversaw the corruption of the Senate and the Jedi for years, and Sidious showed him a path to a changed galaxy. But Dooku became blinded by the dark side until Yaddle pulled him out of it, and now the two Jedi were determined to bring change to the Jedi in a truly meaningful way. All of the Council Masters would soon enter, as Dooku told them that he has urgent news, and once they were seated, he and Yaddle showed them the body of Chancellor Palpatine. The Council was extremely shocked, and Windu immediately demanded to know what was going on. So Dooku revealed the truth. Palpatine was Darth Sidious, Sith Master Tamal, who was slain on Naboo. And Dooku admitted that he was about to take his place as the Sith apprentice before Yaddle saved him. Dooku told the council they can talk about his fall to the dark, but he said that is not important right now. What they need to discuss is how a Sith Lord rose to the position of Chancellor without them ever even getting close to finding out. Dooku passionately said this is the reason he left the Order in the first place. They are blinded by their allegiance to the Senate, and there is only one way to avoid this happening again. The Jedi Order must leave the Republic. And for about 20 minutes, the council was in a huge discussion or argument, with people talking over each other and not truly listening to one another. Yarael Poof said that being in the center of the galaxy allows them to see what is happening, and Apple Rancis said that used to be the case, but now they are blind. Plo Koon, Shakti, and Adigalia were with Dooku, while Windu, Depa Billaba, and Mundi were hesitant. After a while, Yoda finally spoke his first words of the entire session, and he said, Dooku is right. Their ability to use the Force has obviously greatly diminished, and it is time to start over. And with Yoda saying this, the collective council eventually came to the same conclusion. Their allegiance to the Republic cannot stand any longer. And so the Jedi Council would move to the Senate, where a new meeting would be held to discuss this sudden news. Newly elected Chancellor Palpatine is dead. And this meeting would be led by the well-respected Count Dooku, who said that months ago, then Senator Palpatine came to him with a plan to reorganize the Republic. He planned to do it by creating a separatist movement, creating a galactic war, and in the end, he would declare himself emperor over a galaxy needing peace. And Dooku brought the receipts, playing secretly recorded messages from their meetings, and in the end, Dooku admitted now that Palpatine died by his hand, as he could not let this corrupt Sith Lord rise to power. The Senate was in uproar, and Mace Windu soon spoke on behalf of the Jedi. He pulled up the Ruusan Reformation files from hundreds of years ago. This Reformation grounded the Jedi to Coruscant, had them give up warships and armor, and placed them under direct supervision of the Chancellor and the Senate. They signed this so long ago in order to quell any rumors of a Jedi uprising against the Republic. But now Windu proclaimed the Reformation to be outdated, and the Jedi are disavowing the files to leave the Republic once and for all. The Jedi would accept that some of this corruption in the Republic was their fault, but they also accepted that in order to stop it from continuing, they must leave. The Jedi came to the realization that they actually have formed an attachment, not to a single person, but rather to the Republic and to their temple. They no longer served the people, they were blind to the events of this very planet. The Senate, on the other hand, didn't exactly oppose the Jedi leaving. Some of them wanted to wipe the Jedi out, as they were afraid of their power, but most senators just wanted the Jedi out of here for good. Of course, a lot of them also trusted the Jedi, but that wouldn't stop the Jedi from leaving, and so the transition would begin. Over the next few weeks, plans would be put together to restore temples on Tython, Ahch-To, and Dantooine, while also building dozens of outposts across the galaxy. The location of these outposts were determined by Jedi Masters, going from planet to planet, having discussions with the planet leaders. If they were open to a Jedi outpost to maintain security, then the Jedi would be there. Planets like Rhodia, Lothal, Toydaria, Chandrilla would accept this, while some, like Ryloth, would choose to have their own security instead of Jedi, which the Jedi were absolutely fine with. Within just a couple of months, Coruscant was devoid of the Jedi, and the temple would essentially be turned into a museum, school, hospital, job center, and aid center. This was the final request of the Jedi. Instead of tearing the temple down, reallocate the funds that went to the Jedi and use it on new projects. The Jedi would build their temples with funding from planets like Alderaan, Chandrilla, and other wealthy senators that supported the Jedi moving. During all of this, Dooku was allowed back into the Order after extensive talks with Master Yoda, and Dooku would be redeemed, as he was eventually able to turn back and defeat the Sith Lord. These initial months were also the first months of Anakin's training, which was pretty chaotic. Obi-Wan and Anakin would end up at the Tython Temple, the one which most of the Jedi archives were also moved to, along with Dooku, who was now helping Obi-Wan a lot with the training when he found out who Anakin was and what he meant to Qui-Gon. Anakin, like many other young Jedi, did not truly understand why this was happening. They maybe had heard of the Sith in passing, but they basically were sold on the idea of exploring into the galaxy at such a young age. Most Jedi, no matter how old, would accept this new life right away. After a few more weeks, everyone was on board. And it wouldn't take long for the Jedi to see just how different their lives were going to be, now that they were separate from the Republic. When they were called on by the people, or guided by the Force, the Jedi would just find planet after planet had issues, whether political, environmental, or anything else. Coruscant was so safe, so comfortable, every day basically the same. But now they were allowed to act on whatever they thought was right. If there was a planetary blockade by the Trade Federation, they wouldn't have to rely on the Chancellor to secretly send 2 Jedi in to resolve the situation. They could just go in themselves to resolve it. As far as the Republic, they elected Ainley Team of Malastare as their next Chancellor, and he had a long history of making money through corruption. He was basically put in place to keep the senators happy, and it worked. One of the major changes that would come to the Republic was the creation of an army that was comprised completely of Coruscant-willing citizens. The clone army on Kamino was shut down by Dooku, and wouldn't be a factor any longer. But with the Jedi gone, the people of Coruscant, and mainly the corporations, wanted this army. It supplied jobs, weapons, tanks, ships, and money. There wasn't any war, but peace was never a guarantee, so this army was put into place. Without the Jedi, they wanted this extra security. The Republic army was strong more so in numbers than in talent, and they would begin spreading out to Republic planets, dealing with pirates or criminal gangs. The main problem with this was that after the criminals were stopped, the soldiers did not leave the planets. They stayed to enforce security, despite planets not often wanting this. All of this was to try and quell any separatist movement from uprising. Despite Palpatine being dead and Dooku being a Jedi, a separatist movement was still being whispered about, with Mina Bonteri of Onderon being a key figure for it. It was an extremely peaceful movement, and it really didn't have any legs to stand on right now, but the Republic troopers were a show of force to make planets reconsider leaving the Republic. 5 more years of Jedi separation and Republic overreach would go by, with the people starting to really like the Jedi, at least the people outside of the core planets, as the core planets were flooded with anti-Jedi propaganda. One event that showed people that the Jedi are the good guys was on Rhodia. Pirate gangs were disrupting and stealing from supply ships coming from Coruscant, but the Republic wasn't doing anything about it. Senator Anakin Dafar was denying Republic troopers intervene if it meant they would be staying on Rhodia long term, and so they just didn't help. But the Jedi did. A squad of Jedi led by Depa Billaba, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Appa Rensis would take a dozen Jedi Knights and spend around 3 weeks here fighting off these pirates in some gruesome but necessary battles. Ki-Adi-Mundi gave his life to ensure Rhodia is getting the necessary supplies, and the people were rallying around the Jedi after this sacrifice even more. There would be more and more missions like this, especially after the Jedi were completely settled into their rebuilt temples and outposts. Masters Yoda and Windu led an aid mission to Harun Kal, where a massive hurricane destroyed many villages, and the Jedi were there to rebuild and bring aid for around a year. Coleman Cash and Appa Rensis would spend a long time on Kashyyyk, helping them with Trandoshans, trying to hunt them for sport and tear down the ancient trees. In another mission, led by Plo Koon, Shaak Ti, Baylan Skoll, and Pablo Jill, would take them to Balmark, where the main planetary aqueducts were destroyed by local criminals because the Prime Minister was refusing to pay them to stay away. It was blackmail, and they destroyed the aqueducts and were soon dealt with by the Jedi. The Jedi wanted to help rebuild here, so they would send Dooku, Obi-Wan, and now 16-year-old Anakin Skywalker to Kenari to negotiate for some Durasteel to help rebuild these ducts. Kenari was a planet rich in this material, but when the Jedi arrived, they were met with planetary horrors they never expected to find. As far as the eye could see, there were mines deep in the planet, but far past the regular mining zones that ever would have been granted. Instead, into the main villages and cities that used to be here on Kenari, all there was now was gaping holes of mines. And as Dooku, Skywalker, and Kenobi landed their ship in the forests, they wondered if anyone was still alive around here. Luckily, they could see a fire in the distance, and so they pursued this until eventually the three Jedi came upon a new, makeshift sort of village. The people here looked hungry, as if their homes were ripped away, and Dooku requested to speak with the leader as an ambassador of the Jedi Order. The leader here spoke Basic, and Dooku asked what has happened to this planet. The leader was named Sucre, and Sucre detailed how over the last decade or so, the Republic mining operation completely ignored the Kenari Mining Treaty, and they've ripped the planet apart, killing hundreds of thousands of people, whether directly in mining disasters or indirectly by ruining ecosystems and creating environmental disasters. Dooku looked confused. It's not like he trusted the Republic to do what was right, but this was horrific. He asked how this could possibly have been kept quiet, and Sucre said it was simple. The Durasteel and Duracrete, stored deep in this planet to be mined, are the minerals used to build the luxurious skyscrapers and temples on Coruscant, even the one the Jedi used to reside in. And now it all made sense. No one on Coruscant knew about this, spoke up because they were all benefiting from it. And Sucre said now that only a few thousand Kenari people are still here. Most of them have moved across the planet to try and rebuild their homes, but they are starting to fight back. The people behind Sucre cheered in excitement as the Jedi looked to each other with concern. And without warning, a giant explosion suddenly shook the trees and the ground all around them. Dooku asked what was going on, and Sucre said that was the sound of rebellion. The three Jedi ran past the trees, looking down the cliffs and toward the main Kenari mining base, at least where it used to just stand. A group of Kenarians snuck into the Rhydonium refinery inside, and they activated it. And Rhydonium, being an extremely explosive material, caused the entire facility to explode. Dooku sprinted back now, and he asked the people if they have ships to use to get out of here. And Sucre said they will stand and fight. Dooku, Obi-Wan, and Anakin were flustered, and within minutes, a Republic Venator came out of hyperspace, opening fire at the forests without hesitation. They were here to finish the job of wiping out the Kenarians. Sucre told the Jedi they have a cave to hide in, and they all began running. The Republic Coruscant citizen military would begin deploying troop carriers into the forests, and the troopers were spreading out, firing at any Kenari citizen without mercy, woman, man, or child. The thousands that were still alive before the attack on the refinery were reduced to hundreds within the hour, and the three Jedi were protecting Sucre and his people when a squad of troopers found the cave, taking aim at the people, demanding the Jedi move out of the way. Dooku was having deja vu to his early days, and he looked to the people behind him, some of them women and children, and told the troopers to turn and leave immediately. Of course, they did not, and Dooku knew this could enter the Jedi into a war. But it was their duty to protect the Republic. Did they just commit a giant attack? Yes, but only after years of oppression and slow genocide. So Dooku, Skywalker, and Kenobi ignited their blades, and the troopers fired. This battle was quick but gruesome, as the three Jedi took down the troopers by deflecting their own blasts, and they told the people to go into hiding across the planet. The Republic will only increase their grip here. Sucre thanked the Jedi, and they would go their separate ways. These three Jedi would return to Tython, and they would hold a galactic council meeting with Jedi leaders across the galaxy. On Ahch-To, Masters Yaddle, Yoda, and Windu, among a few others, were here. Plo Koon, Stas Ali, and Kit Fisto came in from Dantooine. A few different outposts had some Jedi join as well, and Dooku would tell them that the Republic has gone far too far ever since they left. Sure, the Mid and Outer Rims were safer and more secure with Jedi protection, but the Jedi could never protect every planet alone, and planets like Kenari didn't even have the resources to call the Jedi for help. The core worlds were getting richer than ever, and the people were suffering because of it. And Dooku also revealed that he, Skywalker, and Kenobi took part in killing a squad of Republic soldiers, taking part in the Kenari genocide. If they are not careful, they will face war. So after a bit, Windu threw out an interesting idea. What about this separatist movement they've been hearing whispers about? The Jedi knew the Republic was broken, but what if they could help create this movement and get some influential planets to join, leaving the Republic in disarray? Yoda said it would risk galactic war and the lives of billions, but if they could go about this in a peaceful way, perhaps it could work. The Republic is weaker than they think. And so the Jedi began coming up with plans on how to truly introduce this idea, and over the next few months, key Jedi leaders would begin spreading into the galaxy to determine if this could work. Mace Windu would go to Onderon and speak with Mina Bonteri, Plo Koon to Chandrila to speak with Mon Mothma, Kit Fisto to Alderaan with Bail Organa, Dooku and Padawan Skywalker to Naboo to speak with Padme Amidala, and Obi-Wan to Mandalore to speak with Duchess Satine. These Jedi, plus dozens of other masters, would speak to senators about their observations about the Republic, how the corruption and greed go centuries deep, and how it is time to start over. The stories from Kenari and other hidden situations like that would rally Padme, Mon, Bail, and so many others, as the senators would then begin talking to each other, and within a year of discreet political work, a movement of thousands of systems was ready to separate itself. And so it would begin. Chancellor Ainley Team would be caught off guard as the whispers of these separatists turned into thousands of planets suddenly seceding from the Republic. He never really took these whispers seriously, aside from just threatening war if they did secede, but now that he was faced with the reality, Chancellor Team didn't know exactly what to do. The separatists were ready to show strength. As part of the memo from the separatists to the Republic, they announced that if there should be an attack of any kind on the separatist planets, then the Jedi, the Mandalorians, and the people of these planets will fight back, and they will win. A key element to all of this was Obi-Wan Kenobi convincing Duchess Satine to negotiate with the Death Watch group and find a middle ground between complete peace and reinstating some warrior ways. The Death Watch would end up getting a lot of funding from Mandalore to build up the warrior clans on Concordia, and they would find unity in having two separate paths for people to choose from. The Mandalorians were now ready to fight alongside the Jedi and the people if the Republic dared to attack. But deep down, the Separatists knew that war would never be able to last forever. But the Republic was arrogant and had a large enough ego to believe war was the way. So after receiving this note, Ainley Team dispatched a fleet from the Coruscant Citizen Army all the way to Alderaan, a key planet of the Separatist movement. Alderaan had strong planetary defenses and enough wealth to have their own ships. So when the Republic attacked, Alderaan was ready. A group of 20 Jedi were here, around 200 Mandalorians were here, and a small but strong-willed army of Alderaan citizens. The group was much smaller than the Republic, but the fight was quickly swinging towards the Separatist side. 18-year-old Anakin Skywalker flew next to elite Jedi pilots Plo Koon and Sazy Tim as they led the attack through the air, flying around Republic Venators, taking them down one by one. The main problem with the Republic army was that they just weren't good fighters. They weren't clone troopers, they were just people. Their strength came purely in numbers. But the Republic never put much time or funding into good training, because they never expected actual war. And on the ground, Masters Dooku and Windu fought side by side as Republic tanks were deployed to threaten the city. But the Jedi and the Mandalorians fought together, ensuring the tanks never reached the city. This first battle of Alderaan was a decisive victory, and over the next few months, more battles would take place. But as the Republic army fought against these separatists, a new problem presented itself. So many of the Coruscant army fighters joined the military because they were homeless, unemployed, screwed over by the rich and the wealthy, and now they were fighting for the ones who never cared for them. The military was a job. It gave them housing, food, and a place to sleep. But now as more and more Coruscant fighters came to this realization, morale across the army decreased heavily, and soon there were thousands upon thousands of troopers joining the Separatists, as the Separatists were working for the people. Within 3 months, the Separatist alliance consisted of roughly 75% of the planets that were once in the Republic. This was historic. The remaining 25% were run by senators who were profiting off of the war and only cared for themselves. The Separatists were thriving under the political leadership of Padme Amidala, Mina Bonteri, and Duchess Satine, as well as strength from the Jedi, Mandalorians, and the citizens that were fighting back against the Republic. The Republic army was completely fraudulent. Sure, they had a handful of elite commanders, or leaders like Tarkin or Yularen, but the fighters simply didn't have the skill or the will to fight forever, especially when they saw how powerful the Jedi were, and how happy these separatist planets were. So Chancellor Team began working with Newt Gunray of the Trade Federation and Poggle the Lesser of Geonosis to build a giant droid army for the Republic. It was going to be the turning point of the war, but these plans would not last long. Word of the droid army would leak out, and the Jedi would launch an attack team of 500 Jedi to Geonosis, taking over the factory, destroying it before it could truly get going. The Battle of Geonosis would mark the end of this war, and the Republic Senate, which was now so much smaller, would call for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Team as he was removed from office. The Senate desperately put ex-Chancellor Valorum back into place to try and pick up the pieces, and his first move was to sign a treaty to end this war. In the aftermath of the Separatist victory, the galaxy truly did transform under the leadership of the Jedi, along with political leadership of Padme, Mina, and Satine. The leaders here, united by their shared vision for a more just and equal galaxy, established a new government that prioritized planetary autonomy, peace, and cooperation, with the rules and regulations that would be monitored by the Jedi, ensuring a Kenari disaster never happens again. The Separatist Alliance, now free from the shadow of corruption and manipulation, built a coalition where each planet had a voice, resources were distributed fairly to ensure prosperity for all. Duchess Satine's philosophy of nonviolence was woven into the fabric of their society, leading to a reduction in military presence and the development of conflict resolution methods based on diplomacy and understanding. The Death Watch would still be a large group, but without war they were accepting of peace, as Pre Vizsla and Gar Saxon died during the war, allowing for more peace within this group. Lives of citizens across the Outer and Mid Rims did see dramatic improvements. In contrast to the Republic's centralized bureaucracy, the new government empowered local leaders to govern with minimal interference, leading to greater cultural and economic diversity. Vital infrastructure such as healthcare, education, trade, it all flourished, as resources were invested directly into communities from the core of this alliance. Padme's influence ensured that the rights of all beings, regardless of status or species, were protected, while Mina's work fostered a thriving democracy that actively involved its citizens in decision-making. The Separatists created a transparent, accountable system that gave power to the people rather than a select few. Populations from planets that were in the Republic began to rapidly decrease, as people wanted to move to Separatist planets and be a part of this fresh society, which only furthered the collapse and the erosion of the Republic. The Jedi, having joined the Separatist cause, played a crucial role in this new era of peace. They would not become an official part of the government, but rather they would remain as still serving the people of the entire galaxy, as true guardians of peace and justice, working to protect the rights of the people, mediating disputes across the galaxy, fighting crime wars that people could not fight for themselves. They were freed from the burden of the war, and they were now preserving balance, helping guide the galaxy to a new future as peacekeepers, and they safeguarded the principles in this new, emerging republic. Within a decade, the old republic was all but forgotten, as Coruscant fell into chaos. The Separatists were essentially the new republic now. There was an unprecedented period of peace across the galaxy. Jedi Master Dooku, who'd been instrumental in guiding the Separatists to victory, retired from duty, choosing to spend his final years in quiet reflection on the planet Kenari, as he oversaw it being rebuilt as thousands of people were able to return home. Alongside his old friend Yoda, Dooku watched over the progress of the galaxy, content with the path it had taken, and as Dooku's health began to wane, Yoda remained by his side, and the two Jedi Masters shared their final moments together, master and apprentice, going at the same time, comforted by the knowledge that the galaxy was thriving in peace. They both soon passed on, and Yoda would pass on his role of Grand Master to Mace Windu. Anakin Skywalker, now a respected, powerful Jedi Knight, played a vital role within this new order. With the galaxy at peace, he was free to focus on protecting the ideas of the Jedi, and over time, Anakin did form a quiet but deep relationship with Padme Amidala, whose leadership in this new government continued to inspire change and progress. Obi-Wan Kenobi, having rekindled his love with Duchess Satine, chose to leave the Jedi Order to marry her, fulfilling his lifelong dream of peace and partnership with her. His departure from the Order was a symbol of the changing times. Jedi were no longer bound to the rigid structures of the past, and love and family were celebrated rather than forbidden. Obi-Wan just chose to not remain a Jedi any longer. The Order itself evolved to reflect this new era. Masters like Plo Koon and Kit Fisto became ambassadors of peace, and they were household names, without the burden of constant warfare, focused on education, meditation, healing, growing communities, and developing with compassion at their core. The success of this separatist alliance became a beacon of hope for the galaxy. Governments flourished under the guidance of the wise leaders, Jedi continued to serve as guardians of peace, and the people enjoyed the fruits of a free society. What had once been a fractured galaxy was now united, not by force, but by the common goal of building a better future for everybody. And folks, that is our story for today. This is one I've wanted to do for a while, but I really didn't have the capacity to write it. This was a very political heavy story, right? There's a lot of elements that go into this. But first I had to decide, do I want to do this with Palpatine or without? And ultimately I decided, hey, let's have a different villain in this one, because the villain in most of these stories is Palpatine, right? So I thought, hey, let's just start with him dead. Dooku's here. He's like, I did that. And then Dooku goes about trying to just have the Jedi Order leave or abandon the Republic. I mean, that's what we do. We just go all into politics with the Ruusan Reformation, which is Legends. A lot of stuff. The Kenari thing. We see Kenari and Andor just heavily mined out. I wanted to integrate that and just have it be like a secret thing. A lot of stuff happened in this one. Very political. Hope you guys enjoyed. It took me a long time to write and really just come up with different ideas, because a lot of moving parts here. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.